Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Print podcast, where we feature industry leaders and uncover the creative minds and their businesses within the world of professional printing. Our mission is to provide you with inspiring, actionable resources that elevate your business projects and accelerate your journey to excellence in profit and in print. In this episode of Behind the Print, we're joined by COO of Calico Spanish, Daniel Fischer. Calico Spanish is an elementary Spanish curriculum with the goal of teaching kids to speak real Spanish for life. Daniel walks us through his journey of running the family business and the importance of print-based learning in an increasingly digital world. Welcome to the podcast, Daniel.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.
We appreciate you joining us. So if you're ready, let's just dive right in. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Good question. So I run the family business, Calico Spanish, as you mentioned just prior. So we are an elementary Spanish curriculum company that offers Spanish curriculum to homeschool families, public schools, charter schools, pretty much name it. Anyone that's learning elementary Spanish around the US might be looking into our company for a curriculum for that Spanish learning. And my mom started the company back in 2008 because she felt like there wasn't a lot of great Spanish resources out there for elementary learning, both for teachers to support those teachers, but then also for the students to keep the students engaged. So she started the company back in 2008, and 17 years later, here we are still on the journey, and the product's kind of just been evolving ever since.
I'm curious, where did the name Calico come from?
Yeah, good question. It actually came from the calico cat. And I believe that the name originated because calico signifies that something can be like, it's varying. It can change with the needs of the current environment. And so Calico Spanish felt like a fitting name for a Spanish curriculum company that needs to be changing constantly with the new requirements of this digital era, and also just with the various standards that are out there for elementary Spanish learning.
So you touched on this briefly. You do a lot of work with homeschooling and public schooling too. But what can you tell me about your typical clients?
Yeah, great question. So it really depends just between those two that you mentioned, homeschool and public school. Those are wildly different clients. Like a homeschool family would be someone that's looking to educate their kids in Spanish. And most of the time, they don't have any Spanish background themselves. They're not fluent in Spanish, and they have no idea where to start with teaching their kids Spanish. It's just something that they want to offer to their kids. So for those clients, what we offer are these ready to teach lesson plans with kind of the goal from a parent perspective or that teacher guiding perspective of giving them all the tools that they need to be able to speak, or not speak, but teach their kids Spanish. So whether that's the pronunciation guides or the native speaker audio, a lot of different tools that they can use so that they're not feeling like, oh boy, my kids are listening to my terrible pronunciation of these Spanish words. They're never going to learn the language, right? So there's a lot of that involved on the homeschool side. And then surprisingly as well, even on the school side of things, we do have a lot of schools who will bring our curriculum in for their third or fourth grade teacher, let's say, who also has no Spanish background. And they're meeting this need to offer Spanish, but might not necessarily have the budget or the resources to bring in a Spanish teacher.
And essentially, it sounds like the teacher and kids would be learning together.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a big component of it as well, is, as I mentioned earlier, these lesson plans. The goal really is to provide that parent or that teacher with everything they need to feel confident, because a language is a lot different than, especially in the elementary setting, than teaching your kids math or teaching them science. That's something that's very factual based and it's much easier to teach. Whereas a language, I mean, that's something that a lot of times you are learning yourself. So giving them all those resources so that they feel confident that they can actually go out there and teach a lesson is a big piece of kind of the puzzle in terms of what we offer.
Could you expand that a little bit more? Like, what kind of problems do you typically help solve for these individuals?
Yeah, good question. So, especially in the public school space, one of the big issues these days is both a lack of qualified educators and then a lack of multimodal content. And when I say lack of qualified educators, that's not to say that the teachers that we have in the public school system aren't good, because I mean they're great, they're fantastic. It's more so just that they don't have the support that they need, or that schools don't have the budget. For example, the National Education Center just recently came out with a study in 2023 that showed that 76% of schools don't have the funds or the resources to hire a foreign language teacher in their schools.
It's a
So
pretty
that's
high
that's
percentage.
yeah, exactly. That's a big kind of piece right there in and of itself, because then these schools, they might, rather than having a dedicated Spanish teacher there on staff, they might be going to their teacher and asking that first grade, just kind of the general ed teacher, hey, can you incorporate Spanish once or twice a week to your students? So all those pieces that I touched on earlier in terms of the lesson plans and the teacher guides, the resources that teachers can share with parents so parents also understand what their kids are learning. Those are all the resources and the tools that we offer to schools to allow them to bring Spanish into the classroom, even if they don't have a certified Spanish teacher. And then that second piece that you mentioned, which is multimodal content. So, really, what that means is a variety of ways for kids to get contextual based input. So, when a kid is learning a language, they really need to have multiple repetitions of hearing the same word or the same phrase over and over to drill that into their brain. But hearing the same thing over and over can be super boring. It's like you're just repeating the same content over and over. So the multimodal aspect, what that means is, rather than just hearing that same hello or goodbye phrase over and over, let's say, we incorporate that into a video story or a comic book, or maybe a song that kids can sing along in the classroom. So in that way, both they're getting that repetition of hearing those words over and over in different contexts, but they're also being exposed to other words and phrases that might not necessarily be like the focal point of their lesson, but is at least bringing exposure to them so that they can learn those words and phrases down the road.
Yeah, that actually ties into my next question. I was reading on your website that Calico Spanish's teaching process focuses on giving students key elements and achievable pieces of language instead of long vocabulary lists and complex grammatical explanations. I mean, me personally, I tried Rosetta Stone when I was younger for Spanish and
Mhm.
got frustrated about 3 sessions in and just, okay, I guess I'm not learning Spanish. Can you tell me more about the Calico Spanish's teaching process?
Yeah, great question. And I can definitely empathize with the Rosetta Stone experience as
It's
well.
good for some people,
That's
but just not for me.
yes, yes. And that kind of brings in the topic of learning strategies and what types of learning works for different types of people. For example, myself, I'm very much a visual based learner. You might be as well
Same,
yourself.
same.
So just text alone isn't really enough to either engage you or teach you the material. That's one of the things that we've really tried to incorporate, and our curriculum team's done a fantastic job of with the Calico Spanish curriculum, is understanding that first and foremost, you need the kids to be engaged in the classroom before they're going to be ready to do any learning. Because you can force them to sit there and shove the information down their throats, but
That's just not going to
until
work.
they're actually, exactly, yes, until they're actually engaged, they're not going to be learning anything. So a couple of the ways that we've at least addressed that in our curriculum are, we have these Calico characters. There's a bunch of different characters, and you've maybe seen them on
And them on the
cards.
flashcards.
Yes. Yep. And so those are just really fun, colorful characters for the kids to engage with. And each one of those characters kind of has their own personality, and they're introduced in various parts of the curriculum. And then they take these kids on journeys through Latin America that the kids kind of follow along with throughout this whole story arc of the curriculum. And to your point, I believe the question was initially on like what material we use for
Yes.
teaching. Is that correct?
Yes.
For example, kids will start off their daily lesson with a video story in which they're introduced to some key words and they see maybe one or two of the characters engaging with each other. And then the next piece of that lesson might be a whole class activity where they're focused on, like, let's say we're just talking very basics. These are your kindergarten students who are just learning Spanish. They're saying hola and adios to their classmates that are sitting on either side of them. So something just to get them engaged and talking to their fellow students. So it starts to feel more like, hey, we're in this together. We're doing something fun rather than we're just sitting down for another boring class. And then from there, we might introduce one of our Calico comic stories, which those are a lot more focused on the cultural aspect of Spanish learning. So the kids might be going on some fun adventure with the Calico characters in Latin America, where they're going to visit a football stadium or they're going to the supermarket. The focus is on these cultural experiences. So not only are they learning the language, but they're also learning the culture of these Latin American speaking or Latin American Spanish speaking countries.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that please, it's all you.
I was going to say learning the cultural aspects of it probably helps put some things into context, helps with the learning process.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's cool to see that you're emphasizing this cultural aspect because funny enough, that's actually a huge piece of it's called the ACTFL, American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. But the standard in the US looks at ACTFL and all of these elementary Spanish curriculums, or maybe you have an elementary French curriculum, they all need to align with this ACTFL framework. And part of that ACTFL framework is learning through context, learning through culture, and learning also through like the connections, both with your fellow classmates and with the cultural connection of that other nation that speaks Spanish.
That sounds pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Comprehensive, very comprehensive, but in a way that keeps kids engaged. When I was a kid, I had the attention span of a goldfish. So just
Mhm.
keeping that attention and keeping them engaged, I think that's very important if you want the kids to learn anything.
Absolutely.
So next question, how does Calico Spanish stand out from other businesses in your field?
Yeah, I mean, kind of all the pieces that we spoke on earlier, really any good Spanish curriculum will align with that ACTFL framework. But just like with any framework or standard, there's lots of ways to meet that standard. And we really differentiate ourselves in terms of the engagement, which is those really colorful characters, the fun music videos, and the fun songs, all of which are sole source. We have the copyright for those, and we've created those ourselves in house with our awesome curriculum team and some of the native speakers that we have. There's a lot of those aspects in which we differentiate ourselves for just engagement with or engagement for those students. But then as well, I would say that we have the most comprehensive lesson plans for teachers because, as we spoke on earlier, 76% of public schools in the US have difficulty hiring or have difficulty finding the funds to hire a foreign language teacher. And when you look at that number of schools that have difficulty actually going out and getting a foreign language teacher, and then the number of schools that are offering Spanish. There's a huge number of schools that offer Spanish but don't have a foreign language teacher or someone that's certified to speak that language. And so our lesson plans and the teacher resources, like the pronunciation guides and the teacher workbooks, all of these various resources just help teachers feel confident and prepared to go in and teach Spanish.
Can you tell me about how print has helped elevate your business?
Oh, yeah. I mean, That there is a really interesting story because, as I'm sure that you've seen at Printing Center as well, it's kind of just been this roller coaster of a ride between like when we got started in 2008, our curriculum was all print based. So we would ship out a big old box of all the print materials, and a school would order one of those for their classroom. And that's where we actually got introduced to Printing Center, was back in, might not have been as far back as 2008, but shortly thereafter. And we had Printing Center printing all of our Spanish curriculum, from those teacher guides to the student workbooks to the comic books. Everything was print based. And then in 2016, a lot of schools started calling for, hey, we want our kids to be on their computer. We want a fully digital based curriculum. We want to move away from this print. And so at that point in 2016, we started moving back towards a digital based curriculum. And we still offer a lot of that today, but it's really interesting. When COVID hit, I think that was kind of a key turning point in this back and forth between digital versus print, because it really exasperated and showcased the issues that a all digital world can have, especially on a young learner. And in these last couple of years since COVID, we've really seen a revival in the desire from schools to have print material. A lot of the print materials that we had actually kind of sunsetted and just started only offering on a digital basis, we started bringing those back, and we're constantly having schools ask us, hey, do you guys offer this resource in print? I would love to have my kids sit in front of this resource for print. And especially just from, and there's a lot of studies on this too, but I can say from my own personal learning experience as a kid and all the way through college, I learned a lot better on print versus looking at my computer. As soon as you introduce that digital device in, it opens you up to the distractions. You have that blue light. And yeah, I mean, in terms of how Printing Center has helped us, it's been amazing to have a US based printing partner who can work with us and get us product quickly. A lot of times it's a hurry up and wait business in the education space, where a school or a district might send us an RFP, which is a request for proposal. So they're asking us to bid on providing curriculum to their whole district or to their school. And so we'll submit that RFP, let's say in March, and then we won't hear anything from them until August. And then they'll come to us and say, hey, we need X amount of workbooks and this many flashcards, and we need them next week. So having a US based printing partner who we know is going to have high quality, they're going to have great customer service. We're not speaking to someone from another country or having to wait a long time for turnaround times. That's been really key for our business and making sure that we keep our schools and our partners happy.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to print with you. Also, that's going to be a great quote to put into the blog.
Fantastic.
So next question, what major milestones or projects have defined Calico Spanish?
Yeah, great question. I mean, since we've been in business for the last 17 years, the curriculum has undergone a lot of changes, both to kind of meet the needs of schools, but also to meet the needs of this new era with digital-based learning. So a couple of the key milestones that have defined our company was a transition from a all print-based product to a product that where kids can have a print-based learning solution in front of them in the form of a workbook or a comic book reader, things where they can actually engage with the material on paper, but where we offer schools and teachers specifically the ability to lesson plan from their computers, whether they're at home or they're sitting in the break room before their first class. So understanding just how to address those needs and best deliver a curriculum that can vary according to what a teacher is looking for or what her day looks like. That's been a big milestone for us.
Glad to hear it. Can you tell me about any challenges or obstacles that are holding your business back right now?
Yeah, in our business, it's always a hurry up and wait process in the sense that while we do have homeschool orders coming through every single year, a school, they're typically going to be ordering during the summer break time of the year. That's when their next fiscal year starts. That's when they're on the summer break. So they can start looking at, okay, what curriculum do we want to use? How do we want to roll this out to our students for the next year? So we're super duper busy kind of between the months of like April to October. But then we have this downtime all the way from November through March where it's great for us because we can both recover, we can plan, we can roll out new features. That's really our time where we can focus inward and think about what products do we want to roll out for schools. But it's also difficult because the needs of schools and the needs of kids are changing all the time. So you really have to have your finger to the pulse of what a school wants and where the learning environment is heading so that you can be prepared for that. Because if, let's say, you don't have the product or the tool that a school is looking for come the 2026 summer, you might lose out on sales compared to a competitor that has had a better idea of where the market's heading and is able to more accurately address that need.
That was nicely put.
So, yeah, thank you. And the last piece that I was going to add there is that is another real, that's another value behind having a US based printing partner is when we are trying to think about, okay, how do we address the market or what we think the market is going to be for next year? It's awesome to be able to have a partner that can be as flexible as we need them to be to source new materials or just demo a new product and understand, okay, what is this product going to look like in the hands of teachers? Let's maybe send this product out to a couple of our partner schools that kind of work with us to test things. And being able to do that quickly, super
No
helpful
problem.
though.
So, kind of a different question for you here. If you had a
Yeah.
day completely free to spend however you'd like, how would you spend it?
Oh man. I mean, at this time of the year, as we're heading into the fall, fall is definitely my favorite time of the year. I would be getting out in the mountains around Montana, enjoying the views,
Enjoying
hearing all the
foliage as
ducks
well.
and yes, exactly. Just hearing all the migratory birds coming in is a lot of fun and seeing that. And then if you get lucky too, this time of the year, the elk rut's going on. So you might even hear them calling to each other early in the mornings. So that's probably would be my ideal morning. And then if I truly had a fully free day, definitely getting to sit back and read a book would be really nice as well.
One last question for you. How can our listeners get
Sure.
in touch with you to learn more, collaborate with you on a project? What's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, great question. So you can always check out our website. It's calicospanish.com. We also have a YouTube channel that's super popular. We have over 100,000 subscribers on our
Oh,
YouTube
wow.
channel and over, I think it's now at this point over 30 million listening hours across
Congratulations.
the history. Yeah, thank you. It's pretty cool to see. So you can also check out our YouTube channel. It's called Calico Spanish for Kids. Great resource if you're looking to just gauge the interest of your kids in Spanish learning. Throw them in front of one of those videos and see how they react and how they enjoy it. And then across all of our socials, it's Calico Spanish.
All right. Well, did you have any questions for me?
No.
All right. Well, I'd say that's a wrap on another episode of Behind the Print. Thank you to our listeners for joining us as we explored the artistry and innovation of the printing world. Remember, having a strong vision, building the right strategy, and using tools like print to amplify your message will make your brand stand out from the crowd. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to get your sample pack today from PrintingCenterUSA.com and share it with your fellow business enthusiasts. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying and remember, there's always more to discover behind the print.